With over 2.4 million operators and a network that covers the entire nation, the Boda Boda subsector has revolutionized transport experience in Kenya. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The Boda Boda Story, a 4-part special series beginning this Thursday on KBC Channel 1 News. Don't miss the Boda Boda Story, a real story of our times.
Experience a new history and setting of new records in Stark Arena from the 18th to 20th of March 2022 at the World Athletics Indoor Championships.
Pretty tight out of the blocks, and Coleman now moving away. Christian Coleman challenged late there by Bromell.
More than 1,000 of the world's best athletes will compete for 96 medals across 24 finals during the 3 days of competition in Belgrade, Serbia. Kenya has a formidable team of 10 athletes, amongst them Africa's fastest man, Ferdinand Omanyala. It is going to be a blast, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
And thank you for joining us tonight on Prime Edition. Quite a number of stories we got lined up for you in our comprehensive news bulletin that includes one of our top stories today. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is actually pursuing investigations concerning some remarks that were made on the campaign trail.
Absolutely. This man behind us has been summoned by the IBC to explain remarks they rigged the vote in 2017 in favor of President Uhuru Kenyatta. This is the second time a politician is making such claims. And obviously, just like Sabina Chege, Moses Kioria is going to undergo the same fate. And also tonight, we also discussed the 2022 politics, quite interesting and heated up. And we're speaking to presidential aspirant under the Serfine party, Jimmy Wanjigi. Catch up with that conversation a little bit later.
I like the theme, from kingmaker to wanting to be king.
Wanting to be king.
You want to know what happened in between, how he ended up making that decision. Do stay with us till the tail end of this particular broadcast that begins right now with our top stories.
Rigging remarks. IBC to question Gatundu South Member of Parliament. Hospitalized candidates. Education CS says students are medically fit to write exams. Raila in the United Kingdom. Azimio flag bearer says DP is undermining the president. All right, my name is John Jacob Kioria. Welcome to the broadcast.
And my name is Serfine Achieng. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Lensa Odingo. Let's begin with our top story. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission says it is probing Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kioria over recent remarks claiming that the 2017 elections were rigged in favor of the Jubilee Party.
IBC Chairperson Ofula Chebukati said Kioria will be required to shed more light on the matter once investigations are complete.
During the United Democratic Alliance National Delegates Conference on Tuesday, Gatundu Member of Parliament Moses Kioria claimed that together with other leaders who are now allied to the Deputy President William Ruto, they rigged the last general election. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission says the legislature is under investigations.
The commission will proceed and take action on Moses Kioria in terms of the law. Our team will investigate, and if the wording is said is confirmed and found to be offensive, then we shall proceed to summon him.
IBC Chair Wafula Chebukati noting the commission is committed to deliver free and fair elections.
Items in time, you are not running last minute, then obviously you are ready. And that's what we are saying, that now we are more ready than the previous election, because we shall have everything in place.
I, Marjan Hussein Marjan.
Chebukati made the remarks at the Supreme Court during the swearing-in of Marjan Hussein Marjan as the new IEBC Chief Executive Officer. Chief Justice Martha Koome challenged the Commission to ensure the integrity of the August 9th general elections.
You must strive in your work to live up to and meet the standards of free, fair and credible, verifiable elections as set out in the Constitution and electoral laws, to imbue our electoral processes with the requisite public trust and confidence that ensure a democratic and peaceful electoral process.
And our Education Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha, has assured stakeholders that candidates writing the ongoing Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE exams from hospital beds are in stable condition.
Professor Magoha maintaining that the government prioritizes the health of students and will not compel anyone deemed medically unfit to sit the national examination.
His remarks came a day after a candidate died at the Malava Sub-County Hospital as he was preparing to write an exam.
On Wednesday morning, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha visited a student from State House Girls High School who is sitting the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education from her hospital bed at Nairobi Women's Hospital. The candidate is among a handful countrywide who are sitting the exam under the watchful eyes of medics.
Is it risky for us to allow the child to try or to wait for another year? And in my considered opinion, it was possible for the child to continue from there. Perhaps it's not the best scenario, but then when you say, if you know what we go through to create one paper, the moment you say there's going to be a supplementary exam, it is going to be very costly. It will be very costly, and many other people will fake their, when they see the exam is difficult, they will collapse.
Speaking at Rirota Secondary School in Nairobi while inspecting progress of the national examination, the Education Cabinet Secretary also noted a drop in cases of candidates writing the exams after delivery.
They have improved. We don't have a super crisis of girls who are giving birth and having the kids in the hospital.
The 2021 KCSE theory examinations began on Monday this week. So far, 2 students have been reported dead as they awaited to write the exam. Meanwhile, Professor Magoha confirmed 2 teachers were arrested on Wednesday over exam malpractice.
Because right now in Tharaka Nithi, we just found 2 teachers discussing the chemistry paper. And all they could say, oh, me, I got E in chemistry, so there's nothing I can. But what are you doing with my paper? Outside, and there are 2 of you.
On Thursday, candidates will write Kiswahili Insha and Kiswahili Lugha examinations.
Now from the national exams to matters politics, ODM leader Raila Odinga has accused Deputy President William Ruto of sabotaging the government from within.
Raila, who was speaking at the historic Chatham House in London, hit out at Ruto, claiming he was undermining President Kenyatta by politicizing the war on corruption.
Raila has also pledged that Kenya will not default on debt payment if elected president, while undertaking to ensure that the loans being borrowed are friendly in terms of interest.
Is being undermined from within his own government by his deputy, who is basically an opposition inside the government. And therefore, any fight against corruption is politicized. If anybody is investigated by investigative authorities and is arrested or charged, there's always this cry that, oh, so-and-so is being targeted because he's my supporter. So-and-so is being because he's my supporter. So they cannot really fight against this corruption internally because of internal contradictions within the Jubilee government itself. We'll have to seek the indulgence and cooperation of our development partners to renegotiate our debt.
Deputy President William Ruto has said the country can no longer be held hostage by a few individuals he accused of plotting to determine the destiny of the country.
The Deputy President, who spoke during the Kenya Kwanza campaign in Nairobi County, claimed his political competitors in the opposition are out of touch with reality on the ground. Ben Chumba now reports.
Deputy President William Ruto took the Kenya Kwanza campaign tour to Nairobi's Starehe constituency.
Kanairo ni mtaa wa mahasla.
Here, the Kenya Kwanza brigade promised to liberate the country from what they termed as the interest of a few individuals that had held the country hostage.
We must elect a leader who understands the challenges of the people of Kenya, not the children of privilege.
Sisi tunasema hatuwezi kukaa kwa nchi ambayo madeni yanatukumba.
During stopover rallies in Majengo, Ngara, Kirinyaga Road and Gikomba, the Deputy President popularized the hustler narrative, accusing his rivals of not grasping the reality on the ground.
Let us not make a mistake. Tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 tukachagua mtu ambaye haelewi njaa ni nini.
Meanwhile, a section of UDA leaders has condemned utterances made during the UDA National Delegation Conference in Kasarani, suggesting that President Uhuru Kenyatta rigged elections in the 2017 polls.
Hatukuibia kura Uhuru Kenyatta. So hiyo maneno mengine ambayo watu wetu waliongea hatukukubaliana.
Speaking at a political rally in Bomet East constituency, Bomet Governor Professor Hilary Barchok also dismissed intelligence reports identifying Bomet as a possible conflict hotspot ahead of the August 9 polls.
Na tungependa kuambia wale ambao wamefikiria vibaya, ile kura itakuwa ya nomination itakuwa ya amani, na ile kura ya general election itakuwa ya amani.
A section of Kipsigis elders endorsed Barchok's bid to defend the seat that is also being eyed by former Governor Isaac Ruto. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
Now, Mombasa businessman Suleiman Shahabal insists it is only through a secret ballot that the ODM party can nominate the strongest candidate to compete for the Mombasa gubernatorial seat. Shahabal, who is eyeing the county's top seat, is locked in a heated political feud with Mvita Member of Parliament Abdul Swamad Nasir ahead of a party primaries slated for next month. In an exclusive interview with KBC's Jinae Karisa, Shahabal denied allegations of inciting the youth to violence.
Suleiman Shahabal is a man on a mission. The businessman is looking to succeed Hassan Joho as the next governor of Mombasa County. And the stakes have never been higher. Shahbal is locked in a spirited political contest against his main challenger Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir for the ODM ticket.
Hao wote ni watu wa chungwa na watu wa Azimio. Sawa? Hataki kuona kama wafuasi wanapigana.
Both feel confident of bagging the party's support, but the ensuing spate of political violence has overshadowed the issues in the campaign.
My politics started with ODM. Unfortunately, because of the mess of 2013, we were literally forced out of the party. But my relationship with Baba goes back many, many years, from the year 2000. So for me, coming back to ODM was a normal thing. It is just, like I said, the prodigal son returns. My return to the party has increased the vibrancy of ODM within Mombasa. That's what's important. The capacity and the ability to deliver to the people. Not what color of t-shirt you've been wearing for the last 10 years. That's loyalty. That's a very cheap definition of loyalty.
Shahbal denies inciting the youth to violence as claimed by his political opponent.
Any political rally is already very charged. Young people get excited by these rallies. You cannot bring people into a rally carrying bakoras and threatening people and not expect a reaction. It's his boys who are creating all the chaos there. Now, you know, the best defense is offense. What business did he have being there in a Women's Day meeting? That was a function for women. I wasn't there. My wife went there, and it was so violent, my security team had to take her out. When things calmed down, she came back again and gave her speech and left. Sasa wewe unakwenda mkutano akina mama and you still want to create violence, okay? Kuleta fujo kisha unaanza kulalamika. Why did you go?
The businessman says that ODM must ensure it conducts free and fair primaries if it hopes to retain the Mombasa gubernatorial seat.
It is not me, it is not you who determines who will fly the flag. Let the people decide. Let's go for the nominations and let the people decide. I'm ready for nominations. Why are people suddenly getting very edgy and nervous about this thing? You know, these are people who are used to being given the ticket, the nomination ticket, delivered to their house in 2013, in 2017, and now they're being invited to a match. They are suddenly starting to cry foul. This is politics.
For Shahbal, the mission is not just about development. It also has everything to do with upsetting an alleged status quo in the region's politics.
You cannot have violence as a political philosophy. This is not a revolution we're trying to do here. This is a change in mentality, and a change in attitude, and a change in the economic and political direction of our city. And that will be done by discussions, by ideas. He is a project. It's not that I've branded. He is definitely a project of certain politicians and certain business people. There's no need to substantiate the obvious. But as far as I'm concerned, whether he has a degree or 2 degrees or no degrees, we'll still win this race. The closing shot, ajipange. It's as simple as that. Wachana nei mambo ya, you know, projects always expect to be carried. That's the problem. Now, nobody can carry you past the crossing line. You have to run yourself. You have to cross that line yourself. Me, I'm ready.
Juni Karisa Mbele from Mombasa County.
June.
All right, great reporting there by Juni Karisa. More is to be expected from the coastal region, not just on that gubernatorial race. Now, away from that, we move on. For the last 3 years, most sectors of the economy have been grappling with the adverse effects occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The creative industry, particularly theatre, was no exception. However, the curtains are gradually coming down on that dark COVID-19 chapter. In this week's edition of Cinemas and Theatre, Jacqueline Masharia reviews the play Bro Code.
The play Bro Code is a story about two brothers trapped in a warehouse after a bank robbery goes wrong. From the robbery, a security guard is left with a gunshot wound, prompting the two brothers to hide in the warehouse.
And then you proceed to shoot an innocent man in the stomach, Saddam. That no longer qualifies as an errand.
Years of estrangement set the perfect stage for the two brothers to catch up and hash out unsettled scores.
Give me that phone. Give me that phone.
Directed by Lawrence Morage, Bro Code is played by renowned actors Xavier Uwaya, who plays the character Saddam, and Nyakundi Isaboke, who plays the character Michael.
For Uwaya, we settled on him because there's a time I did a short film and he was playing that kind of a character. And now we wanted someone who would match up with him, and one of the people that was suggested was Isaboke. First, they are friends. Second, they've worked together for a while. And third, Isaboke wanted a new experience on stage. He's never done stage plays. He's never done this kind of shows. He's never stepped on this stage. So it was a challenge to him and to us to make him do that role and do it to perfection.
The theatre staged play Bro Code seeks to show that blood is thicker than water.
Bro Code is a show about brothers. It's a show about brotherhood, but by extension we got to cover about siblings and childhood, how you'd grow with your siblings. I have grown in a familiar environment, though I had a mother. I still have a mother, but I've only grown up with my brother as the only sibling that I know. So it's a story and a play that resonates a lot with my life, and that's why I accepted to direct the play.
Saddam, you get the picture I'm trying to paint. Bro, you just bribe them, bro.
Having directed different films and TV shows, Morage noted that theatre staged plays are fulfilling compared to films as they offer instant feedbacks from the audiences.
Theatre is really fulfilling. I mean, everything is instant. It's not like a film where you'd have to go and do what and edit. These shows, they've been the same, but they've been different because where it's a bokeh where Michael or Saddam stood yesterday is not where they'll stand today, because it's a feeling and it's a real-time feeling. And that's the difference. That's the difference between theatre and TV. Well, the theatre space had picked up pre-COVID. That is 2018, 2019, theatre was doing really well. This is one of the plays that have gotten back to, that have brought back people to the theatre and brought back actors to the theatre. Now that the directives have been at least vacated, no masks and all this, so we just hope things will be better now.
You're my brother for sure.
Jacqueline Masharia for Cinemas and Theatre.
You're my brother for sure.
I'm very sure you don't know when the term Bro Code is used.
You actually want us to have this conversation on air?
On Sunday.
Because I can say a lot about that subject.
We can have it on Sunday. Can we?
We can, but yeah, that is Bro Code for you. We actually carry this segment each and every Wednesday for those who love movies, particularly those who love local talent. We promote that right here on Prime Edition every Wednesday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, on that note, we are going to be taking a very short break, but remember, Betty Kiptum is coming up shortly with the latest from the world of business. Don't go too far to stay for that and much more.
Beyond is partnership in development, from our own little home to the location, to the district, to the nation. developing ourselves in partnership. Job for a woman and this a job for a man, that is a thing of the past. We should share these things and if possible lighten the burden the woman has been carrying by herself. So it was a very fruitful meeting.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Attention family.
Once beaten, twice shy.
I am here to make money, so you better get your act together.
I want nothing to do with the company. Not now, never.
I need to think about it.
Don't take long.
You're forgetting a Manjuguna.
Have you been living in a hole or something? No. What choice does he have?
With over 2.4 million operators and a network that covers the entire nation, the Boda Boda subsector has revolutionized transport experience in Kenya. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The Boda Boda Story, a 4-part special series beginning this Thursday on KBC Channel 1 News. Don't miss the Boda Boda Story, a real story of our times.
Good evening and thank you for staying with Prime Edition. Time to get the business news. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, the government has directed scrap metal dealers to seek fresh licensing as part of measures aimed at curbing vandalism associated with the sector. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says that the ongoing ban will only be lifted when the dealers get fresh licenses and join associations.
President Uhuru Kenyatta in January imposed a ban on exports and dealings in scrap metal, hitting traders who were operating in the sector. This included a moratorium on the export or the buying or selling of any scrap material until proper guidelines were put in place to regulate the sector. The Fresh Licensing Directive is among new regulations that have been proposed to control the sector. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i warned that vandals will be treated as economic saboteurs and will be charged under the counter-terrorism laws. On her part, Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina revealed that over 3,900 scrap metal dealers are operating illegally, with only 20 scrap metal dealers officially licensed in the country, while 91 others have their applications pending. Dealers will also now be required to display the name and license number of their businesses outside their facilities, as well as keep receipts detailing the nature of scrap metal, its source, previous use and registration details. In the regulations, transporters of scrap metal will be expected to carry a copy of their license and obtain a letter authorizing the vehicle to carry the load that must declare details of source and destination. In the proposed regulations, licensed dealers, millers and smelters will be charged 250,000 shillings in annual fees, while agents and Juakali collectors will fork 150,000 and 50,000 shillings respectively. Alanauko, Prime Edition.
And Kenyans should prepare to pay more for maize flour as maize millers say they will increase the cost amid looming maize shortage both in the local and global markets. United Grain Millers Association says maize stocks in the neighboring Uganda have been depleted, with prices of maize expected to increase in the coming weeks.
Grappling with the cost of increased fuel prices after the recent April reviews,
Once again, Kenyans will have to contend with high maize flour prices in the coming weeks. According to a section of millers, projections show that the maize stocks in the country, especially the North Rift, which is Kenya's key maize belt region, are insufficient and can last the country a maximum of 2 months.
It is just slightly goes up. I'm sure we would have anything because I know in Uganda maize is almost done, and the North Rift actually there's no maize, and let's now wait for this coming harvest, which I don't know, but from my own sources, understand it's not so much. It's something that will take us for a month in this country.
The situation is exacerbated by reduced maize stocks in Uganda and Mexico, where Kenya sources are maize to bridge the deficits.
I think even globally there is an issue of maize. Even where we used to talk of Mexico, the maize is extremely high. So it's a global problem. So we don't expect Kenya to be an exception.
The millers predict the current 3,200 shillings per 90 kg bag will increase considerably in the coming weeks, with millers keen on passing the cost to the final consumers. Millers say the current high maize flour prices are partly due to the newly introduced market sales and distribution levy, asking the taxman to consider abolishing the levies to stabilize maize flour prices.
There's no way I can translate 5 countries and every country I'm paying cess. Of course, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass this over to the consumer. So this is an issue that we are telling government, let's sit down, let's agree. If we have to pay cess, you pay cess once, you bring your goods and you process.
Financial institutions have been encouraged to finance small millers to start fortification, as enshrined in the law, and uphold safety standards to reduce cases of aflatoxin contamination.
With capacity, they're struggling with finances, they're struggling with access to maize grain, sufficient quantities, and they're also struggling with marketing their grain. And you know, most of our households, particularly the poor people who need to eat fortified foods most, they don't source their maize flour from the supermarket. They dry their maize locally and take them to the mill when they are ready to eat it.
Benson Druba reporting for Prime Edition.
And Kenya is looking to build policies that support a positive business environment that can withstand regime changes. Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina said there is need to implement long-term plans that can be adopted by different regimes without disruptions to ensure continuous economic growth.
Political uncertainties during electioneering period often have a negative impact on Kenya's economy, occasioning dips every 5 years. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, in partnership with the government, is set to formulate strategies that will foster productivity in industrialization, even when countries go through their election cycles. Trade CS Betty Maina urged UNCTAD to provide strategic framework that will seamlessly transform into different regimes.
And you are the policy makers, you are the guys within government who can help us reflect a lot on our policies and figure out how we can dovetail them and ensure that we coordinate properly towards our stated gains of structural economic transformation within Kenya.
She said that Kenya is focusing on enhancing production to ensure recovery post-COVID, adding that politics should not slow down this growth.
It's also intended to give you an opportunity to elaborate the conceptual foundation and policy context of productive capacity in Kenya and outline our priorities and strategies for the post-COVID period.
The 3-day forum will focus on the productive resources, entrepreneurial capabilities and production linkages that together determine a country's ability to produce goods and services that will help it grow and develop. Reporting for Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
And commissioning of smart infrastructure at the Konza Technopolis has inched a step closer after the Kenyan and Korean governments formalized a partnership aimed at fast-tracking development of smart city infrastructure. The 3-year partnership is set to provide a framework for completion of key projects in the 500-acre smart city master plan of Konza Technopolis.
The Ministry of ICT projects that Konza Technopolis has the potential to transform Kenya into the freelancing headquarters of the world, in keeping with the goal to transform Kenya into a knowledge-based and innovation economy by 2025. The government notes that as a globally competitive smart city, Konza will create an enabling environment through utilization of ICT for socio-economic development in several sectors.
We have actually agreed on quite a number of things we want to do together, more specifically on the innovation front, that will really help our young people, let me say specifically, especially those ones who are in the innovation space.
At the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Kenya and Korea, the government underscored the importance of building capacity that will help run the city of the future.
We're looking forward the IPP to support on the
finish its core infrastructure by September 2022. The city is engaging IT consultants with the hopes of attracting IT firms into the smart city.
We have Korean government has a very full trust and very good partnership with the Kenyan governments, and then we would like to really deepen our relations based on these MOUs, and we feel that it will be laying the foundation for future cooperations between two countries, especially in relation to human resource development. So we are quite happy about that.
In the recent budget allocation for the year 2021-2022, the Ministry of ICT had set aside over 70% of its budget for the development of Konza Smart City.
And thus begins the journey of self-monitoring, awareness, reporting technology in Kenya. Alan Auko, Prime Edition.
Alan Auko's report there brings us to a close of the business news this evening, but of course sports news is coming up with Karen Kibet. My name is Betty Kiptum. Do have yourself a lovely night. Bye-bye.
Thank you for keeping it Prime Edition. Let's now talk matters sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, Edna Jepitok will be the first Kenyan athlete to compete at the 2022 World Indoor Championships, which begins on Friday afternoon when she takes to the track in the women's 1500 meters and 3000 meter races. Collins Kipruto, Noah Kibet, and Naomi Korir will also be among the Kenyan athletes to compete on day one of the 3-day championship to be held in Belgrade, Serbia, and televised live on KBC Channel 1.
Eight of the 10 Kenyan athletes that traveled to Belgrade for the 2022 World Indoor Championship will compete on day one of the 3-day championship, which begins on Friday afternoon. Only Captain Ferdinand Omanyala and Abel Kipsang will miss in action on day one, with their events, the 60 meters and 1500 meters respectively, being held from day two. The Kenyan team left the country last evening and will have a final light training session tomorrow before the championship begins on Friday. Edna will also be the only Kenyan competing in two events, having doubled the 1500 meters and 3000 meters flat. The Kenyan team, which is targeting to collect a minimum 5 gold medals at the event, is optimistic of winning all the events they compete in, with their only threat coming from Team Ethiopia, who have sent more athletes to the championship. The 2022 World Indoor Championship will be televised live on KBC Channel 1 from Friday afternoon through to Sunday.
And we sure do wish Team Kenya all the best. Now moving on, the national volleyball team Malkia Strikers will know their opponents in the forthcoming World Championships when the International Volleyball Federation FIVB conduct draws for the event tomorrow evening in Lausanne, Switzerland. The event will be co-hosted by Netherlands and Poland between the 23rd of September and 15th October this year.
The draws were initially sent to be held last month in Warsaw, Poland, but FIVB delayed and moved the event from Poland to Switzerland due to the current situation in Ukraine. FIVB said they will conduct the draws in a closed, virtual format and verified by an independent auditor, with all participating teams able to view the proceedings live. Africa will be represented by Kenya and Cameroon in the 24-team competition, which will be co-hosted by Netherlands and Poland from September 23rd to October 15. Malkia Strikers will be out to register their second win in the event held every 4 years after beating Kazakhstan 3-0 in the group stage in the previous edition held in 2018 in Belgrade, Serbia.
Talanta FC protected their 9th position on the Kenya Premier League table at the expense of Sofapaka after securing a 2-1 win at the Kasarani Annex Stadium. Talanta, who conceded first in the match through the 16th minute Joseph Waithera goal, scored a goal in each half, with the second coming in added time to snatch all the 3 points from Sofapaka, who remained 13th on the log with 27 points. 6th placed Kariobangi Sharks were held to a 1-1 draw by 10th placed Bidco FC in the second match played today. Leaders Kakamega Homeboys will be in action tomorrow against Ulinzi Stars in one of the 4 matches to be played tomorrow. Spanish soccer giants Atletico Madrid humiliated Manchester United at home by beating them 1-0 to progress to the quarterfinals of the European Champions League on 2-1 goals aggregate. Meanwhile, Darwin Núñez scored the winner as Benfica beat Ajax 1-0 and qualified for the quarterfinals on a 3-2 goals aggregate. Tonight, Chelsea travel to Lille while Juventus host Villarreal.
Portuguese side had not managed a single attempt on target until Uruguayan striker Núñez beat goalkeeper Andre Onana to Alex Grimaldo's free kick and headed in to silence the Johan Cruyff Arena from that blow and go out, while two-time European Cup winners Benfica look forward to Friday's draw to the quarterfinals.
English Premier League side Liverpool hope to close the gap between them and Manchester City when they face Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium tonight. The last Premier League game between the two rivals was in Anfield, where Liverpool dominated the match and ended in 4-0 victory. Klopp's side could continue with their impressive form of run by beating Arsenal to make it 9 consecutive wins since last month. In another match tonight, Brighton welcome Tottenham at the Amex. And that's all we had for you tonight. I'll see you tomorrow with more sports stories. My name is Karen Kibet, but the broadcast is not yet over because Jacob Kioria has an amazing interview lined up for you. Good night.
Ili kupata skiza tune ya Sitoki Jikoni kwenye simu yako, dial *811 *816 We,
umeingiaje kwa hii jikoni? Wewe achana bwana, wewe ujui tulitokea wapi? Acha hata wewe toka hapa. Wacha upuzi yako hiyo. Toka nje bwana. Hii jikoni niko hapa ndani. Na nitakaa hapa and make decision. Wacha maneno yako bwana, toka nje bwana. Wewe unajua tulijenga hapa watu wawili hii jikoni. Wewe kwa wakati nilikuwa naandikishana contract ya kufanya kazi kwa hii jikoni. Wewe toka bwana, wacha.
Kupata sikiza tune hiyo ya Sitoki Jikoni, dial *811 *816#.
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
With over 2.4 million operators and a network that covers the entire nation, the Boda Boda subsector has revolutionized transport experience in Kenya. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The Boda Boda Story, a 4-part special series beginning this Thursday on KBC Channel 1 News. Don't miss the Boda Boda Story, a real story of our times. All right, and after the sports and the business and the general news, it's now time for us to pave way for that interview we told you about, from kingmaker to wanting to be king.
I spoke earlier to presidential aspirant Jimmy Wanjigi. Here's that conversation.
Serfine presidential aspirant and businessman Jimmy Wanjigi about his political journey and what the elections portend for him and his party. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Karibu JJ.
We'll talk about, your journey through ODM until you went to Serfine. But let's just talk about the events of yesterday first. Appearing at the UDA NDC, and of course there were quite heavy sentiments you had to talk about the UDA NDC. But the question is Jimmy Wanjigi finally gravitating towards William Ruto?
Let me put it this way, JJ, for the avoidance of any doubt whatsoever. I think yesterday you saw a clarity on identifying who the opponent is in the coming election, who is truly on the ballot in the coming election. I was clear in my message that for the last 60 years, at every presidential ballot, there have been two families that have been on. And I clearly said that this election, those families are in one ballot. So I will join with every like-minded person that does not want to see those two families extend another 60 years of their political participation at the ballot, at the presidential ballot of this nation.
You also spoke about your relationship with Ruto even before the 2013, because much of your relationship with Ruto is known around 2013, but you spoke passionately about your relationship with him before then.
William Ruto is somebody I got to meet in 2006. And he was introduced to me by my very good friend Charles Kitea. And we had a meeting of minds. We understood the issues and the challenges of the time. He was in a different political inclination than I was, because I was very much a supporter of Kibaki. But Raila was my friend and my political friend. And in that election, I encouraged him to support Raila.
I can tell you that when all hell broke loose in the 2000 post-election violence, William sought refuge with me, and it was glad to see him acknowledge that his brother Jimmy was there for him when everybody was trying to ginger him. It is those efforts that help bring about a lot of the peace that you've seen in this nation. So he is my friend and my brother.
You were at the center of a formation of the Jubilee administration from 2013. At some point, things went haywire. Are you saying your relationship with William Ruto remained intact even after you had been alienated from a government you had participated in forming?
Let me first articulate what my take-home in terms of forming that union was. It was not only to bring peace, but prosperity coming from a different generation of leaders. That was why I was very supportive of the Jubilee government when it was formed. Uhuru Ruto, I think it was called at the time. And at that time, I think you remember we had a slogan, digital versus analog. We were talking about a cutoff from a previous generation. And we were talking about a different way the country was going to operate. Bring peace, bring prosperity, bring new energy and infuse into the country. And on that, we had a meeting of minds. The only thing I wanted in return, for them particularly being saved from ICC and the troubles that they were personally facing, was that they would literally save this nation from the scourges of poverty and everything else that comes with it. Now, William was very clear that I had crossed certain lines, and I had crossed those lines according to his boss, because there were things I was against. I was against massive debt. Massive debt. I said our great-great-grandchildren were going to pay. We were enslaving them. I was very, very particular about policy decisions that were being made that looked like we were more analog than analog. And because he had a boss, he had to follow his boss. I was a private citizen. I could voice my concerns, I could opt out, and I can tell you within 1 year, I was very clear I cannot participate in this.
I spoke to you before you announced your presidential bid under ODM. Then I covered you when you went to ODM and you met the Secretary General and the Secretariat in that party. And it didn't look like they were receptive about your ambitions. Why did you insist on running on the party in the first place?
Because I'm a Democrat.
Okay.
I'm a Democrat in heart and nature. I've been parcel of fighting for democracy in this country. You see, how officials receive you is irrelevant. It is how the people receive you. And you know, I'm a man who believes in the mantra of Matiba. Let the people decide. Raila Amolo Odinga was detained fighting for that democracy. If there's anybody I believed would practice party democracy, it is him. Unfortunately, I was wrong. That has been his modus operandi, and he has not changed. And I think it is very sad to watch that before my eyes, because that's a man I supported heavily in 2017. That even within his own party, he wants to pick and choose. Even his own leadership, he decides some with some officials. Even he never applied, but he's given the ticket. You know, it is the saddest thing. Yeah, multipartyism was fought for, so that there is party democracy too, not just the will to form your own parties. Why should I form parties when we have similar ideology? Why don't we build internal democracy? So look at what they have done. They've created coalitions to put in a myriad of interests. But those interests are regional interests. It's got nothing to do with ideology or philosophy. And then they say this is now multipartyism in coalitions. I mean, what we are seeing here is dictatorship coming back in its worst form. In its worst form. And people being regionalized or regionalized out. It's the worst kind that you're seeing from people who said they were fighting for democracy. So we are fighting on those issues. What I wanted to demonstrate to everybody is that one should have the courage and the determination, no matter what people are saying, to fight for what is right. And I did. I never thought in my wildest imagination that people would throw me out with stones. This is a party I was being killed for just a few years ago. I did everything to try and support, to try and make sure that as presidential candidate, our party leader, who was the head of NASA, would win an election. I never imagined a man who I have known since 1991 would be part and parcel of people who are throwing stones at me for only one reason: asking for internal democracy in a party. So I think Kenyans have seen it.
You're a life member, you were a life member of that party. Are you telling me this dictatorship that you speak about in ODM, are you saying you had not seen it by that time, all this time you were a life member, that you only noticed it was there when you decided to run for presidency under ODM?
I became a life member in 2018.
Okay.
And I can tell you there was nowhere where there was a demonstration of this. There were previous discussions that when you have seats, parliamentary, MCAs, governor, senator, that people are handpicked. That really the so-called democracy that happens in ODM is fake democracy. And there were cases. But you know, in 2017, they had formulated a very good tribunal to deal with a lot of those cases. So it looked like a fairly open and transparent process, although it had its complaints like any election. I never believed that it would be demonstrated to the extent that it was demonstrated to me. And I can tell you, I am waiting to see the nominations of ODM, especially in Luo Nyanza, in the next month or two, because I think there will be a major debacle. If you ask me, I can see the demise of this party.
You went to Migori, if I'm not wrong, and there were stones pelted on you. You had changed the slogan for ODM to Fagia Wote. And then there's this ruckus with officials who are saying you're opening parallel offices. Before the National Delegates Conference, they have already said your life membership does not guarantee you to be an automatic member of the National Delegates of ODM. And then you go to Kasarani. How are you going there? The environment was already poisoned against you.
To show them that I'm prepared to push this to the limit.
Okay.
And you see, I think this is what I must be very clear to Kenyans about. As for democracy, stones were thrown. I was a delegate until I was removed somewhere else. Yes. So this question of I was a life member but not a delegate is not true. I think even the chairman, I think Aladwa, said that I was removed in December. How was I removed in December? Which process is this? So they pick and choose as they wish. That's okay. They are demonstrating who they are. They are showing who they are. And these are the people that want to govern a country. I wish them the very best. I myself have been one of their greatest supporters. This is how they treat me. Can you imagine how they will treat Mwananchi? Can you imagine? So my friend, I think they are nicking who they are. So I leave them to the electorate to decide about them. I think really JJ, that is the past. Tuzungumze mambo ya wananchi huku mbele. Wachana na hawa watu. They will face the electorate.
All right. Tutazungumza kuwahusu. But I have a quick one, because looking at it, you know, since the handshake, it was almost clear that Raila Odinga was going to run for president. There are those who thought your declaration for presidency under ODM was just troublemaking.
I don't know how clear that was, because clarity may be perception. What he told me is that he was retiring. He told me handshake was retiring. Where he changed his ambitions, I don't know. Because he was even one of those who encouraged me, even as early as last year, to put in my application. So I don't know, JJ, whether that is quite right or is conjecture. Okay. Yeah, those are your speculations, right? I seriously believe the following, and I'll repeat it here. Kenya is now on what we call the third revolution. And he himself has copied this mantra from me. I spoke this last year on Citizen, and it seems to have taken root as a mantra. We have gone through two liberations. And these liberations are categorized this way, because I know nobody else can really explain it as much as I can. It's 60 years. The first liberation was our independence. So it had its heroes, it had its warriors. Tulikuwa na washujaa. Jomo Kenyatta alikuwa mshujaa. Jaramogi mshujaa. Tom Mboya mshujaa. They were there. J.M. Kariuki was in Mau Mau. These were washujaa of the first liberation. 30 years. 62 to 92. It coincided with something very interesting. The beginning of the Cold War. Because these events coincide with something international. In 1992 was the end of the Cold War, multipartism, second liberation. And it had its heroes, Raila among them. Kenneth Stanley Jindo Matiba, Charles Rubia, my own father was there. Paul Muite, my party leader in Serfine. James Orengo, solid. Gitobo Imanyara, heroes of the second liberation. You saw when Jaramogi with Masinde Muliro tried to be heroes of the second liberation, he was fourth in that election. You can't go from one to the next. We are now in what we call the economic liberation, because our people must be emancipated. The greatest emancipation is literacy and financial independence. Okay? Especially political literacy and financial independence. Our people cannot be free when they are slaves. So we want to liberate them economically. You can't transfer from what was the human rights liberation to now something to do with finance.
But then I assume your relationship with Raila Odinga is sour?
Well, he threw stones. I've not talked to him since. Yes.
And you found refuge in Serfine party. You'll be running for presidency. Before we can speak about anything else, what would a Jimmy Wanjigi presidency portend for these Kenyans you're saying need economic emancipation?
JJ, that's a very good question. And it goes to the heart of why I'm standing. This is what you now call an Itweka movement. I think you know that because we come from similar regions. Itweka is a break from one generation to another. And it's normally a very tense break, because the moment is saying that what has happened in the past is now untenable. Is now untenable. We are at that Itweka moment. The one advantage I have may not be generational, but I have freshness. And I have an insurgent spirit. In other words, I have been part and parcel of all this, so I know them. I'm the warrior who can break these shackles. And these shackles are about economic liberation. That is the Itweka. This good country of ours has been plagued by a form of governance since the colonial era, where the government is the king, Mwananchi is the servant. This is a time to change that. Mwananchi is king, the government is a servant. And this was empowered by the colonial regime and by our internal colonizers the last 60 years. In fact, only Kibaki tried to break it a bit between 2003 to about 2005, 2006. Then after referendum, we went back to that old mode where the people are no longer in charge. It was something else. But I can tell you the best person that tried was President Mwai Kibaki. And I praise him for that. I can tell you we are now at that stage where that emancipation means that your life is not rigged the way it is rigged today. I'll give you a simple stat. Today, as we are talking, 2 million kids over the last 1 year have been disenfranchised because of one aspect called malnutrition. Brain formation is between the ages of 0 to 5. That's when your brain, best formation is done. If you are malnourished, you subside that brain to probably 30% of its full capacity. Yeah. So when 2 million kids are disenfranchised, you are talking about a human capacity, which is our greatest capacity and resource, disenfranchised at birth. Okay? So they will not be able to produce later on in life. it is rigged against them from beginning. Poverty is rigged against you from the very beginning, and nobody deals with it. It's like people are very happy when there are few enjoying this cake. This cake our forefathers wanted and fought for all of us, not for a few. It was for all of us to have a heritage, not for a few. And we are only going to be able to do that when we enhance the life of every single person. Every single person. The advantage I have is that I'm a businessman. As a businessman, we are happy when we see across the board people who have got something in their pockets, people who are prosperous and want more. Because that to us is a market. Unfortunately, for the leadership we have had, they don't want to see empowered Kenyans because then they become threats to them. So they want to see people who are begging them. And that is the difference I bring. That's the emancipation we are talking about here. Serfine, my party of choice, is specifically there because it is an act to occur us.
You know, before you announced your ambitions, like I had said, we had talked and you told me you were emerging from being a kingmaker to now wanting to be king. In most cases, kingmakers are oligarchs. So the question is, why would a successful businessman for that matter, a near oligarch, want to move away from that corner office to now become a politician?
I think you saw Donald Trump, didn't you? Mm-hmm. You saw Donald Trump. How many? The Ecuadorian president the other day was a businessman, a very big businessman, and he's now president. It's not a new phenomenon. It's not. And I am doing so because I have the courage to do so. I'm the courage to come and tell Kenyans what their real issues are that nobody else is probably going to articulate as well as I can, because I know it. And I'm prepared to face whatever it is fearlessly in championing their cause. You know, JJ, when you reach my stage and my age in life, you have to define what you want to be remembered for. You have to. What more am I looking for in life? Is what I want to be remembered for. So do I want to be remembered as just a businessman who left a little something for my children to inherit? No. Or I employed 2 or 3 people? No. I want to be remembered as being favored by God to have achieved certain things in my life. But apart from that, I have used that favor to build as many people around me as possible. So you have 2 choices. You go into public life to make a difference that is earth-changing and earth-shattering, or you go into philanthropy. I've chosen the latter.
Before we wind up, let me take you back a bit. Yesterday at the NDC, you said you are talking. Is Jimmy Wanjigi intending to run the full course, or this we are talking will end up with him supporting William Ruto?
JJ, I have an NDC next week that is endorsing me as a presidential candidate. What do you think that means? Please, please. Why do you not see William Ruto endorsing me? Why are you only seeing one way? You don't know what is going to happen. We said we are friends. Who knows what is going to happen ahead? I want to be very clear to fellow Kenyans. This is truly an Itweka moment. Seize it, because it will define the next 30 years of our lives. Seize it. It is our time as all Kenyans, not a few Kenyans.
Presidential aspirant under the Serfine party and businessman, thank you very much for hosting us. And thank you again for that conversation. Good luck and all the best.
Thank you, JJ.
Keep watching KBC
Asante sana.
Keep watching KBC Channel 1, because KBC Kenyans are watching. Thank you very much.